Welcome to JW Cast Brooding. Jehovah has added grief to my pain. I am gay. How stressful.
Hey everybody, it's me, Jake. I'm a former Jehovah's Witness and current live stream person. This is a wonderful show, a wonderful stream. This episode will not be filler. It will be very important because we're talking about some pretty cool stuff that's happened in the world of Jehovah's Witnesses. Or, I mean, it's cool for morality and justice and so forth. It's not so cool for culty religious leaders who want to hold on to mandatory reporting to cover up CSA. But one step at a time this week, the Senate in Washington passed a mandatory reporting bill that would make clergy members, including Jehovah's Witness elders, mandatory reporters. Historically, the clergy penitent privilege is the thing that has, I think that's the right word for it, clergy penitent privilege, has been the thing that has protected Watchtower in the Catholic Church and other similar groups who try to cover over their CSA problems. What they do is basically say, we learned this in a confessional, and a confessional is this spiritual process that's sacred, and it would be wrong to report things that we learn in a confessional to the police. Jehovah's Witnesses don't have a confessional system like the Catholics do, but these things are sometimes learned in judicial committees. That's the JW equivalent. Now they call them elder committees or committees of elders. But from what I understand, this bill includes protections, or rather includes assurances that they would also be mandatory reporters, and that things learned in judicial committees would not be an exception to the rule. Washington does rock, says Skeptics and Scoundrels. It's true, and Dr. Shemp rocks for giving me a 99-cent super sticker. Feel free to send super stickers. Okay, so that's the main story. We're going to get into that here soon. What I do want to do is just a quick segment that sometimes we have to do up top. And usually this is where I talk about YouTube stuff. I guess I've got a couple YouTube things to talk about, but I also just have a kind of an exciting announcement that's outside of that. But I'm scrolling, desperately looking for my Complaint Corner sound drop. And it's because the Conspiracy Corner and the Complaint Corner both have Garrett Loesch with a background that's completely identical. They look exactly the same.
Welcome, Internet. I'm so...
It's the thing that we're not playing. Here's the Complaint Corner theme.
Oh, happy day. All worldly complaining about YouTube.
Okay, YouTube. So I've been a little bit slower to update the channel than I would like. I've been a little bit overwhelmed professionally with things other than YouTube. I mean, this is still my part-time job outside of my day job that I have. But some of you know that I've been pursuing writing since I left The Witnesses, and I've been submitting a novel that I wrote in 2022 or such, something like that. And I've been trying to get a literary agent. And I finally got one. I was told I'm able to announce it. Yeah, I'm officially represented by the Bradford Literary Agency. I have a literary agent named Hillary Fazari. What does that mean for you? Honestly, not that much. Hopefully in like a year, I might be able to get my book published, but we'll see. But basically it means that I've got someone who's now going to be pitching this book to like publishers and stuff, and we'll see what happens. So there's no guarantee. But I like to overshare and keep people parasocially connected to my life, because parasocial relationships are two-way streets, and I really don't have that many people in my life to tell this to. So thank you so much for your kind words. I'm very excited. I really can't share anything about it. It's not related to Jehovah's Witnesses at all. This is unrelated to Not a Cult, which is I'm still planning on self-publishing. So look forward to that later. But anyway, yeah, that's why I've been a little bit slower on the channel to upload, because I've been focusing on this thing that I've been working on for years, and it's starting to pay off. We'll see. Not in terms of literal payment. So please do like and subscribe as Patreon and such things. But my goal is to keep the channel going and to continue to try and make just cool, I don't know, video essays, diving into weird stuff. But my plan is to expand more and try and talk more about cults other than Jehovah's Witnesses. The first few videos that I've kind of got in the bank still definitely use JWs as a springboard. But the video essay project I've been working on that's like research heavy is definitely my first attempt at actually formally discussing other cults other than Jehovah's Witnesses on the channel. So look forward to that. Now, thank you to everybody being so nice. I really appreciate it. It might actually be oversharing. I don't know. I don't know what the kosher thing is. Okay, so another news thing that came up here recently is this story here. Coroner blames Jehovah's Witness blood rules in women's death. This is the Avoid JW article, but this was reported about in the press as well, that a coroner determined that it was indeed refusing a blood transfusion that caused this woman to die. And so I am going to talk about this thing, kind of like, I'm going to talk about this briefly in a video and kind of use it as an intro for a stream I did a couple months ago that was sort of getting into everything wrong with the witnesses' take on blood transfusions. That kind of like wasn't my intention when the stream started, but it turned into that. And so one of our chatters here has been helping me out. Dr. Shemp has helped me kind of edit that down into a coherent video, kind of like a stream highlights, but slightly more high effort. So that will be coming out soon. I still have interviews banked that I haven't finished and a bunch of stuff I recorded at the end of the year. Because I thought most of my free time I would be editing, and I have not been doing other stuff. So still stuff on the horizon, but I'm just kind of pacing myself a little bit slower. But this is like a really important story, I think. This, at least in terms of highlighting a really clear-cut example of a way in which the witnesses' rules about blood transfusion directly led to somebody dying. It happens way more frequently than we hear about because unfortunately it is rather common. It isn't always reported in the news. But I've wanted to make that more of a focus on the channel this year because it seems like a thing that more people should talk about and that might be illegal and we might be able to do something about. And it's personally for me, it's something that has impacted my life as somebody with a chronic illness. So I'm not going to talk about this on stream today, but if you've been curious on my take on it, we'll definitely be getting into that on the channel soon. So let's get into this story here. The Washington Senate clergy thing. I was going to have on somebody who actually knew what they were talking about. I was going to have Mitch on, but he wasn't, ended up not being available. So you're going to have to deal with me trying to make sense of things myself. But this is a pretty good article from the Washington State Standard that kind of highlights everything about it. So I'm going to just kind of read this to give everybody an overview on what's been going on. Washington Senate passes bill to make clergy mandatory reporters of child abuse. The state Senate passed a bill Friday afternoon to make religious leaders mandatory reporters of child abuse and neglect. Supporters say the move is crucial to protecting children from harm, especially sexual abuse, while opponents argue the bill could end up doing more harm. Senate Bill 5375 would make members of the clergy mandatory reporters, like doctors, teachers, and other people who work with kids. Under the law, religious leaders would be required to tell law enforcement or the Department of Children, Youth, and Family if they suspect any harm has been done to a child. They must do so even if they learn that information during a confession or other penitential communication. This is the third time in recent years that making clergy mandatory reporters has been attempted, with exemptions for reporting information learned in confession being a sticking point in the past. Prime sponsor, Senator Noel Frame, a Democrat from Seattle, said religious leaders should have the responsibility to report abuse so the state can step in and take action. Seems reasonable to me. That was an aside. That's not part of the article. Children need trusted adults, the senator said. They need to know that if they tell somebody they are being abused, like I told my teacher in 5th grade that I was being abused, that they can trust that that person will make it stop. So, real quick pause. Imagine being an absolute monster who would oppose such a common sense thing. Well, you don't have to imagine, they exist, and here they are. They're called Republicans. While the bill compels clergy to report child neglect information learned from confession, Frame said their privilege to not be compelled to testify in a criminal case not compelled to testify in a criminal proceeding remains intact. Okay, interesting. So I didn't know this, but I guess what they're saying is like they're a mandatory reporter, like a priest or an elder of Jehovah's Witnesses. They have to inform the authorities, but that doesn't mean that they are compelled to testify in any criminal proceeding. So that makes sense. According to Frame, Washington is only one of 5 states where clergy are not mandatory reporters. She believes, okay, so maybe it's Noel, or Noel. I guess I don't know. I said that and then realized, no, I still don't know. She believes that has to change in light of reports of churches covering up harm done to children. The state does not have to be complicit when religious communities who engage in the practice of covering up abuse and neglect choose to do so, she said. Republicans said they supported previous efforts to make clergy members mandatory reporters, but took issue this time that there was no exemption for information learned in confession. They believe those committing harm may do more harm if they cannot freely confide in religious leaders. People want to ask for forgiveness for their past sins. They will not come and ask for help, said State Senator Judy Warnock, Republican Moses Lake. They also argue that the bill violates the First Amendment right to freely practice religion and ultimately drives a wedge between people, their faith, and those who help them in it. It is forcing someone who's given their entire life, raised their hand, made an oath with God Almighty, to choose between God's law and man's law, said State Senator Shitbag Leonard Christian. More editorializing. The bill ultimately passed 28-20 with 2 Democratic senators who are hacks joining all Republicans in attendance in opposition. The proposal now heads to the House, where it will go through the second half of the legislative process. Okay, so it's really absurd. Like, the entire loophole that we're trying to plug is the fact that people like PDF files who are confessing things in confessional or in a judicial committee, it doesn't get reported, and then they keep on abusing other children because the authorities are not informed. Like, it's not that complicated. So this is the loophole that they are trying to close. And Republicans are like, no, well, we supported the thing that did have a loophole in it that allowed more pedophilia to take place, but we don't support the thing that would make that happen less. And their reasoning is just, apparently it's against your religious liberties to report crimes. Because if you say a crime that you did in a special room with the person wearing the correct robe or suit or something, well, then that's like a safe zone from the law, and you shouldn't have to tell the grown-ups what you did. Then, I don't know. I don't get these people. I don't understand how anybody takes these seriously as adults who care about things. I hate it. Every accusation of the right is a confession. I mean, yeah, let's not mince words. The part of the right constituency, in large part, are the Christian right, religious people, evangelicals and Christian nationalists, and yes, Catholics. I mean, Catholics, I think, statistically, in terms of polling, have historically been actually more even split than you would think in terms of liberal versus conservative as voters. But the Republican Party, no, you have to be the party of pro-child marriage, allowing sex criminals and adjudicated rapists into the White House. And so obviously this little thing is not going to bother you too much. Bear Woody said, I had an internal problem last year that made me lose a lot of blood, and I was really hoping for a transfusion. Came very close, but disappointed not to get one. I mean, they're not, like, fun to get. It's good to get one if you need it, but it's not like, I don't know, smoking pot or going down a water slide. two totally comparable experiences that are fun. Yes, very glad it passed. We'll see if it passes the House. And as we saw on this channel, the testimony of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and ex-Catholics, they were really, really important in getting this bill passed. Hearing the testimony and people's stories of how their abuse was not taken seriously because of these arbitrary rules in the religion that create loopholes in our governance, it really did make a difference. Now, there's one guy who really, really sucks, and I was hoping to play a video kind of demonstrating why he sucks. One of my viewers actually, I believe, made this little edit. They posted it. They're involved with this in Pennsylvania or Washington, and they kind of made a little side-by-side of the way that this hacky religious dude flip-flopped. Let's see. Let's share this. I can't find that video right now, but Senator Noel framed a Catholic bishop, "You're failing us." I believe this is the guy that we saw when we were reacting to this live, and you just heard this really cheesy slimeball used car salesman of a bishop trying to wax poetic about how beautiful the confession process is and how, no, if we have to tell the police about the pedophiles, then it won't be as godly and lovely anymore. Don't you understand? Let's see what this guy said. This article here talks about it. Among those testifying in favor of the bill, this was in January, was Father James Connell? Is that what FR stands for? A retired priest from the Catholic Archdiocese of Milwaukee who called for the abolition of exemptions that protect religious institutions. Any law that hides and protects criminals while simultaneously endangering children and vulnerable adults should not be on the books, Connell stated, emphasizing that even the Catholic Church Catechism affirms the responsibility of civil authorities to enforce justice. Damn, pretty hard to argue against that. Tensions rose in the hearing when Senator Noel Frame directly addressed Auxiliary Bishop Frank Schuster of the Archdiocese of Seattle following testimony from the Washington State Catholic Conference. "I'm sure your intent is good, to thank me for sponsoring this bill, to thank us for having this conversation, and for telling us that we're brave, and that the community failed us," Frame said. "You're failing us." Frame, herself a victim of child sexual abuse, described the profound toll the debate continues to take on survivors and lawmakers alike. "It is traumatizing to have colleagues who I love and trust and have respect for, and have this legislature tell me to my face that freedom of religion is more important than protecting children," she said. "It feels like an abusive relationship we're in, where we are repeatedly abused, and people just keep saying sorry." Yeah, well said. I think that, like, the issue maybe with framing it as like freedom of religion more important than protection of children and stuff is like a religion is actually not free, and the religious adherents to it are not free if they don't have the ability and the safety to confide in the leaders. Like if crimes within the group are not taken seriously, then that's really not a free religion. It's a captive religion that exists to, manipulate its followers and control them. It doesn't have it hasn't like earned the right to be trusted. And so I think like freedom of religion a lot of times for the religious leaders and like this bishop guy, and I guess for Republican lawmakers, they're just used to freedom of religion essentially meaning protecting the freedom of religious leaders to inflict whatever harms they see fit, when in reality, like the legislation should be aimed at the religious people who follow these religions. Their freedoms are under attack. Like, is a kingdom hall really a safe place of worship if you are a victim of CSA that occurred in that kingdom hall, or a ministerial servant or elder there is still welcome in that kingdom hall in some way? The elders didn't report it. Like, that's not actually freedom of religion. And so, I don't know, screw these people who say things like that. My profound take. Sorry, I guess that's all we're going to say about that for now. But I have a lot to say, really too much to say about this March 2025 broadcast. So maybe we can move to that. Now, here's the thing with the March 2025 broadcast is yesterday I was going to finish editing that aforementioned Bloodstream that I talked about. But I ended up watching, finally, David Splain's talk that that they show on this broadcast. They do a little show and tell of his morning worship program, and it's one of the worst talks I've ever heard. And I wrote a long video about it yesterday and spent all my time doing that instead. So we're gonna watch everything in this except for the David Splain video because I've got a scripted rebuttal of it coming. But I literally didn't watch the rest of it at all. Like I didn't watch any of. Oh, hello. Sure, thank you. Thank you, darling.
You're welcome.
What is this guy's name? Dellinger? This guy's dad, like, is in our territory and is an elder locally in around where I live. So it's always really weird seeing this guy because his dad is just kind of like a normal elder. And like my aunts and uncles grew up with this dude. I don't remember what this guy's name is.
Dellinger.
Yeah, what's his first name though? Like the one on the broadcast. Is it Joel? Is he the one that's on the broadcast?
I think it's Joel.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure they'll show us in literally 1 second if I just would hit the play button, but, you know, where's the fun in that? Oh my god, we lost 20 people. Thank you, David Rose. I really appreciate it. Those 20 people who tuned out, I'm assuming, are all Republican lawmakers in favor of continuing abuse within the Catholic Church and Jehovah's Witnesses, so we don't sweat that. But okay, we're going to watch Joel Dellinger, who's really attempting a new look. I don't know if anyone's seen the new Elephant Graveyard video, but he talks a lot about becoming a new guy. And it kind of does look like Mr. Dellinger is trying to become a new guy.
Welcome to JW Broadcasting. We're so happy you could join us.
Oh, so happy. I mean, look how happy he is. Whoa! Look at that face. This guy went to the, what's that guy's name? Stephen Lett. Wow. Had a brain fart where I forgot Stephen Lett. That's how you know we're making some kind of progress with deconstruction. I think he went to the Stephen Lett School of Facial Acting. Happy to see you not JW, man. Do we know you? Do we know each other, sir? From JW days? This really does feel like a simulation of human emotions. I mean, what we're seeing right now is really not happiness as such. He's saying that he's happy to see us, but really, he seems to be somewhat in distress. Like he's a claymation figure in between poses.
We'll learn why
Ooh, hang on. Check this out. We're next gen on this channel. We have this little thing called subtitles. And by this channel, I mean JW Broadcasting.
putting Jehovah's will ahead of our own interests improves our life and protects us from harm. We all appreciate being recognized by others. In an interview, we'll see why recognition from Jehovah brings the most joy.
Why do I feel like his pace is still really slow, even when we speed it
Are
up?
you a young person looking to start a career? If so, you'll appreciate learning how 2 young witnesses found work to support themselves and their ministry. And we'll see how husbands and wives can work as a team to increase the love and peace in marriage. This is the March 2025 edition of JW Broadcasting.
Welcome, brothers and sisters, to JW Cast Broaden. In this month's program, we'll learn ways to kill ourselves.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was muted, apparently. Sorry! Yes, it was a cat unplug situation. Sorry, the thing I was rambling about on mute is that I like to play the theme song as fast as possible, and this is the fastest I think I've ever played. The theme song was in this little clip here, so if you want to know what this sounds like at 500x speed, this is what the theme song sounds like.
If you battle with anxiety, please kill yourself.
Don't listen to this
Give
guy.
up the fight. There's not much to enjoy in this game edition of JW Cast Broaden. The theme chosen for this program is, well, think about it.
Here you go. That's what it sounds like at 500 speed. It wasn't worth it. It would have been worth it if I hadn't been accidentally muted the whole time. We'll cut that
Our
from the
theme this
final
month
product.
is keep seeking great things for Jehovah.
It just so happens
It's
to always be
based on
true.
some powerful advice that Jehovah gave to a man named Barak. Who was Barak? What can his example teach us?
It's pronounced Barak, first of all.
And how can the divine counsel he received help us today? Let's find out. Barak was a faithful servant of Jehovah. He appears in the Bible book of Jeremiah about the year 625 BCE.
Okay, so people might know on this channel that I'm the discoverer. I mean, I don't like to brag, even though that's mostly what the stream has been so far. But I did discover the JW broadcasting recipe. And one of the ingredients is you talk for about 15 straight minutes about a Bible story that's probably like 3 sentences long and extrapolate an entire fan fiction about it. Now, he didn't start with a childish illustration, so we'll have to see if he gets there eventually. I don't know that all the ingredients need to happen in the right order, but so far we've hit one of our ingredients, which is Bible fan fiction.
Book of Jeremiah about the year 625 BCE. Let's start our journey by reading Jeremiah chapter 45, verse 1. This is the word that Jeremiah the prophet spoke to Barak.
Stay
son of Neriah,
tuned!
when he wrote in a book these words dictated by Jeremiah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah,
Oh, God. That's too boring even for me.
BCE. That was certainly a special.
Oh, wait. He tried to do a little sneaky. Okay, so he's just sliding this in there. This comment, by the way, is referring to a particularly nutty bit of fan fiction that David Splain gets into. Stay tuned for scripted rebuttal. And yes, 607 is mentioned. One very strange thing that's unique about Jehovah's Witnesses is they just, because their Bible prophecy is based in like numerology and all of these years of certain prophecies have to add up to 1914, they have this false date when a thing happened, like Jerusalem being destroyed in 607 BCE. Like they're the only group that thinks this. Everybody, like actual archaeologists and historians and stuff, say it happened in like 586, 587. But witnesses just believe this, and it's like a weird small lie that you wouldn't really think to double check. I mean, like imagine if you grew up in a weird cult, and they just would casually say like, in 1775, the Declaration of Independence was signed. You'd be like, okay. It's like, well, it was 1776 in real life, but you just wouldn't think that they would intentionally lie about something like that.
Worked closely together for some 18 years, including after the destruction of Jerusalem in 607 BCE. That was certainly a special privilege of service during a very challenging time. But why did Jeremiah need
Privilege of service is a JW term, like being a regular pioneer or doing free labor on a construction site for Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. That is a privilege of service, and so is whatever Bronze Age thing Jeremiah was doing. Exact same.
an assistant? For some 23 years, Jeremiah had been conveying a message of judgment and hope.
Whoa, that's huge.
In the year 625 BCE, it seems that Jeremiah had been barred from the temple area where Jehovah's message was to be read. At that time, Jehovah asked Jeremiah to write his warnings in a scroll. That's where Barak, a scribe or secretary, comes into the picture.
He was really excited about this scroll, and I do want to see this at his normal speaking voice. Like, A scroll.
Jehovah asked Jeremiah to write his warnings in a scroll.
That seems like slow motion. Slow motion? No, slow motion. Earlier he was claymation. I think that's what happened. That's normal speed. Now, it isn't normal speed to normal people like us, but this is the way he normally talks. Doesn't that feel insane?
Jehovah asked Jeremiah to write his warnings in a scroll.
In a scroll. I think we might have to hear it at 0.6. No, I think they're cowards for not going all the way down to 0.1. Or at least 0.5. Like, what are they doing? They're doing a 607 with the playback speeds.
Jeremiah to write his warnings in a scroll.
Oh, a saucy scroll. Okay, back to the thing.
That's where Barak, a scribe or secretary, comes into the picture. He wrote in a scroll all the words that Jehovah had spoken through Jeremiah up until that time. 23.
100% correct, by the way, on QC Man 2000 says it's possible that the GB may be self-brainwashed about a lot of things, but 607, 586 is definitely a thing the governing body knows is wrong since the 70s. How do they ignore that? Yeah, it's true. Like, this is a big thing that Raymond Franz talks about in Crisis of Conscience, a book that I happen to have right here from the last stream I did. Which check that out if you want to hear from some of the very people in this chat right now who called in and we heard their cool XJW stories. But yeah, like, this has been so thoroughly debunked by really high up and like respected Watchtower people know that this is fake, and they just can't change it because, I don't know, cowardice, really. I don't know why they can't just say, hey, listen, this date we were wrong about, but we were right about 1914 because World War I happened that year. So can't you just give us credit for that? Maybe they can spice it up a little bit more. My upcoming scripted rebuttal to the David Blaine thing, we go into a new corner where I officially start to give some PR advice. In a scroll. Thank you, QC man. Sunk cost fallacy. Yeah. 23 years worth. Now double that, and that's the amount of time that they've lied about this weird teaching.
3 years worth. The following year, when the time came for the
Why was he
contents
laughing
of that
about that?
year's worth.
It's not that funny.
Up until that time, 23 years worth.
Stop laughing, it's not funny.
The following year, when the time came for the contents of that scroll to be read aloud in the temple courtyard, Jeremiah asked Barak to deliver the message. Again, Barak did just so. What happened next? When the princes of Judah heard what Barak had done, they wanted to hear the message firsthand. So Barak read it out loud again. As soon as they heard it, the account says they looked at one another in dread. They told Barak, we must certainly tell the king all these words.
Oh, we must certainly tell the king all these words. Oh my. I just hate how in their in their little broadcast, they just can't talk like a normal person. They have to adopt the like Watchtower New World Translation weirdness. Hang on, I'm going to let this play and close this door real quick.
Before doing so, they warned Barak, go and hide yourselves, you and Jeremiah, and do not let anyone know where you are. Wicked King Jehoiakim was hot with anger. He burned the scroll and ordered that Jeremiah and Barak be arrested. Now, let's pause and think. What we've considered.
Wait, he told us to pause. By the way, future note for the JW Broadcasting production team, it would actually be very, very helpful if you could just include in the broadcast when I am supposed to pause. That's interesting considering the facts that we talked about are literally the exact opposite. Every Republican voted in favor of allowing child sexual abuse. So you're literally wrong. So that's, you know, an interesting thing to say, but you're literally saying the opposite of the facts that happened. So your fantasy Republican Party, it doesn't exist. Now, by the way, what we can learn from Barak, I don't know. I was too distracted by the way he said scroll to really pick up on much of anything.
So far, what can we learn from Barak? First, he was humble. Many scholars believe that he belonged to a prominent scribal family. Yet when the invitation came to help Jeremiah, Barak proceeded to do according to all that Jeremiah the prophet had commanded him. Like you, brothers and sisters, Barak was happy to support Jehovah's work and to do whatever was asked of him.
So again, humility, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, just means subservience. It means obey everything that we tell you to do. Now, that's not actual humility. Like, I guess I don't know the dictionary definition right off the top of my head, but it's kind of not thinking too much of yourself in terms of your ego. You believe that other people might know more than you. You're conciliatory. You don't think too much of yourself. That is humility. What's maybe not humility is insisting that you are the one true religion, and anybody who disagrees with you is an agent of Satan, and anybody who speaks out against you or just reports on the facts of what you're doing, they're an enemy of the religion as well, and they're trying to trick Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, that's not super humble. Barak, I'm pretty sure, is the example that they use to talk about witnesses. Like, don't seek great things for yourself. You may want to be an artist or an athlete or a small business owner or a large business owner, or really do anything that requires that you might not be able to make it to every single meeting and every single ministry day. But that would be really selfish. If you do that, you're a selfish hack, and a really unselfish, humble person would simply give up on all your dreams and do whatever the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society tells you to do. So I'm pretty sure that's, if Pimis really not find this way of talking infantilizing, or do only filthy apostates hear it? I mean, when I was a Pimi, I heard it when, I knew this was a thing. I remember calling it convention voice. I really wanted to give public talks when I was a Jehovah's Witness, in part because I didn't like the fact that on conventions, people would start adopting this way of talking. I noticed that. I liked that my dad always kind of just sounded like himself, no matter what kind of talks he gave. And so I tried to kind of follow his example there. Obviously, I strayed a little far from the path I ended up on this stream, and he's still giving public talks. But I think that some witnesses do notice it. And weirdly, witnesses who buck this trend and don't talk like this don't really get promoted, because they too are considered not humble, because they're not really following the Theocratic Ministry School book. By putting these speakers in front of the camera constantly, they're just reiterating to Jehovah's Witnesses that this is the way that good talks are supposed to be. And I don't know. Sorry, that's a little off topic. In your question is, yeah, I think some people find it infantilizing, but like everything in the religion, you find ways to justify it, because when you're in a cult, you can't really accept that it's wrong. So, you may, for example, be so brainwashed that even though we literally just read an article from some independent Washington local newspaper that dispassionately broke down both sides of the issues and the way both parties voted and their reasoning for voting that way, without expressing an opinion one way or the other. We read that article, and the fact is that every Republican supported child sexual abuse outright and voted in favor of it. The kind of loopholes that happen in judicial committees that Larry, I'm assuming, pretends to care about. Well, Larry doesn't actually care about that, because he wouldn't be a Republican, or she, or whoever, because the Republican Party objectively wants to keep child marriage intact, which is itself child abuse. They want to get rid of no-fault divorce, which would keep those child brides locked in a marriage forever. That's kind of how Jehovah's Witnesses operate. You can only get divorced in one very specific instance, and there's all these rules around it. So what happens if you're Larry is you just ignore that reality, and you ignore literally every fact that we just read from a perfectly reputable website, and you just say, do your research. If you watch CNN News, that's what they would tell you. Even though we did do research, and it wasn't from CNN, so we didn't hear that. So, Larry, you're fucking stupid, and get your brain fixed. Okay, Joshua Wooster. My new arc, by the way, is like listen, anyone's welcome to the resistance, but I left a cult where I wasn't allowed to speak my mind. Okay? And also, Republicans and right-wing people support a guy who is the biggest bully in the world. Like, Trump is just famous for being a mean asshole. So I'm not going to pretend that you give a shit about anybody being nice. So fuck you if you come in here with, like, lies and bigotry. I didn't mean to direct that at Joshua Wooster, who was very nice, gave a 1999 super sticker. Will these streams be allowed to continue now that I'm an agented author? I'm not actually sure. We'll see. I'm going to do this until they tell me to stop it. It's definitely gotten worse over the years. I would agree with this, by the way. I think that it's gotten worse because, like, the leadership is now so full of sycophants and watchtower corporate people who came up through the ranks of the organization from a very young age. People like, Sam Hurd, Anthony Morris, and Ted Jarris were three very different kinds of speakers who had their own different kind of charisma, right, in their heyday. And they don't appoint those kind of people anymore. And it seems to be a conscious choice to appoint people like Mark Sanderson. I said that like Joel Dellinger. Mark Sanderson. I went over this recently, but it was like the last few appointments are like Mark Sanderson, Kenneth Cook, Gage Flegel, Jeffrey Winder, and then Jacob Rumpf and Jody Jadley. Like, and those are basically just 6 or 7 identical dudes who all look visually and act exactly the same for all intents and purposes. So it seems to be like they want, you know how like when a small local restaurant that's really good becomes a franchise, and so the little things that make it special have to be subdued in order to be able to copy it ad nauseum. It's almost like they're yes, they're dropping reskins on the character. It's like, in order to make the mass-produced version of Jehovah's Witnesses that they clearly want to do, where they're translating everything into 300 languages, they have to keep it so simple and babyish. And also, if you can make your members like children and totally infantilized and subtly reinforce that every step of the way up to and including your tone of voice, then there you go. Yeah, exactly. That's what QC Man says. Do your research equals only listen to sources. I agree with, which is totally true. This is Kahim. Kithrim. I don't know. Growing up, I have to perfect the Bible reading during a 3 academic ministry school, so I would not come back on the next 2 to 4 weeks for another Bible reading. Oh, like the whole time you had a Bible reading, you'd just be working on that instead of going to meetings? Oh my God, yeah. Like this, my grandfather, his consistent note to most people, but also me every single time, was to slow down. And I remember at a pretty young age thinking, like, I think it's just because he's old. He can't really hear that well anymore. But it didn't matter because he was the overseer of the ministry school and everyone wanted to make him happy. And he does naturally just have a very slow, deliberate way of speaking. So everybody kind of tried to talk in a way that made my grandfather happy, right? At least when he was at the head of the school. And so, and I don't think that's a bad thing or like manipulative. It's just, I don't know. But I think that happens on a grand level. You see it with the Republican Party and Trump in a weird way, where you start to see a lot more copycats of politicians literally copying his little mannerisms. They'll start, just adopting his little phrases, his little hand movements. Like Ron DeSantis was criticized for doing that on the campaign trail. He started just like doing just honest to God Trump gestures and stuff. And I think that's just a thing. When somebody is clearly in charge of an organization, like a cult, charismatic leader type, people try and talk like them, and all of the governing body people talk the same, and some of the witnesses all try and talk like these terrible speakers. It's The vicious cycle of mediocrity.
He did not let his family status or personal goals distract him. Because he was humble, he put Jehovah's will first in his life. Barak also demonstrated endurance. Do you think putting 23 years worth of divine messages in writing took some time? Of course. Barak didn't have a modern tool such as a...
They're acting like, oh my God, can you imagine doing something for 23 years? Yeah, by the way, yes, most of the witnesses watching this can, because most of them have been in the organization for more than 20 years. I mean, the median age of the witnesses is like 50.
Smartphone, tablet, or computer. It was a lot of manual work. And imagine Barak's shock when the king burned up the first scroll. That was Jehovah's message.
What?
That was the scroll that Barak had written by hand. Hours of work up in smoke.
Oh my God. Do you know that Chris Martin actually wrote a song called Up in Flames? It's very similar.
And sometimes we do like to talk to Chris Martin on this channel. I can't really sing like Chris Martin, but it was something like, okay, fine, I'll do it. It was like, I've been flamed. No, sorry, can't do it. No, I haven't done my morning exercises and drank the throat jello that Gwyneth has me drink every morning. I also saw somebody wanted Obama earlier, and I haven't really done a Barack Obama in many years. Many years since I've done a Barack Obama impression.
Jeremiah chapter 36, verse 32 says, Jeremiah then took another scroll and gave it to Barak, and at Jeremiah's dictation he wrote on it all the words of the scroll that King Jehoiakim of Judah had burned in the fire. And
Jehoiakim. Jehoiada. Watch my recent Sam Hurd edit to hear about Jehoiada. The way he's describing this is so funny. And also is... Hey, any Severance viewers? See the latest episode? Similar situation. Wait, that's not what I meant to click on. When, sometimes I will go to click on a message, but, things are scrolling by, right? So it's like I go to click, and then it goes, woo, and then I click on the next one. Thank you for being a person who is willing to say, F off with your bigotry instead of wishy-washy centrist crap. Hey, thanks, Lo, for the $4.99. Sasha? Believe? Oh, that's possible. Yeah, it might be. We've got the small worldly and alt worldly thing going on because I don't really know what's going on with my life. I started the second stream channel when I thought that I might be spending a lot more of my time
and
doing that.
many more words like those were added. Like Barak, we too need endurance to stick to our sacred work when there are challenges. Consider too Barak's courage.
Their work is sacred. It's mysterious and important, like Severance. But by the way, just constantly underscoring that just everything that you do as a Jehovah's Witness is sacred, which is a lot of pressure to put on everything that you do throughout the day, including thoughts that just occur in your own brain. You got to watch out for those. You think the wrong thoughts, you could get in trouble with God.
He must have known how dangerous it would be to work with Jeremiah.
Oh.
Earlier, the same king that burned up the scroll killed another prophet of Jehovah, Uriah, by the sword.
Uriah.
But Barak fearlessly used his professional skills and contacts to support Jehovah's prophet. There's so much we can learn from this God-fearing man who demonstrated humility, endurance, and courage. Jehovah loved Barak, and so do we. Of course, Barak, like us, confronted negative thoughts and feelings. There was one challenge that could have cost him dearly. What was it? Let's continue the reading in Jeremiah chapter 45, verses 2 and 3. And please note...
I wonder if he's just going to talk about the seeking great things for yourself thing that I mentioned earlier. I just set this comment aside. Please remind me to come back to Severance at the end of the stream, and we can have a little discussion. We can talk. I can try and talk without spoilers, but yeah, I rewatched it last night with Christina, and I'm very, very positive on that episode. I think it's awesome. But I really like the kind of quiet world building with just little background detail stuff. I just think that's cool.
Jehovah's personal interest in Barak. Jeremiah 45, 2 and 3 says, This is what Jehovah, the God of Israel, says concerning you, Barak.
All right, prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for this. The one thing I did watch was, if you're a new viewer, God bless your heart for making it this far in the stream. But also, I usually, about 20 minutes before I start recording, remember that I like to make a little YouTube poop intro. And so I quickly scan the broadcast just for anything that sounds like a funny word. And so I was doing that. And I clicked through, and I heard him say or read this verse. And talking about dramatic Bible readings, I think Joel's coming for Gage Fliegel's job with this little performance here.
Eric, you have said, "Woe to me, for Jehovah has added grief to my..."
I forgot it was fast motion. That totally destroys the drama of it. Come back.
Have said, "Woe to me, for Jehovah has added grief to my pain. I am weary from my groaning, and I have found no resting place."
I am weary from my groaning. Why does he do this?
Weary from my groaning, and I have found no resting place.
Okay, listen. Okay, no spoilers for Severance in chat. And Jenny's a mod, so she might just ban you. And I will, if I see any of that nonsense. Although, to be fair, it would honestly be hard for me to spoil the new season because I have been so overwhelmed. It's kind of hard to describe what it's been.
I am weary from my groaning, and I have found no resting place.
This is what I sound like when, I was 5 and Mom tells me to go to bed, but I still want to watch cartoons. Like, no!
Why was Barrick feeling like that? Was he getting tired of his assignment? Or perhaps the circumstances in which he had to perform it? Let's keep reading verses 4 and 5. You should say to him, "This is what Jehovah says. Look, I have built up, I am tearing down. And what I have planted, I am uprooting, the entire land. But you are seeking great things for yourself. Stop seeking such things. For I am about to bring a calamity on all flesh, declares Jehovah."
Okay, yeah, so this is what we were talking about. Don't seek great things for yourself because the end is about to come. I'm about to bring a calamity on all flesh, and wherever you go, I will grant you your life as a spoil. Okay, so he's now going to use this, I'm assuming, to tell JW kids why they shouldn't pursue their dreams.
"And wherever you may go, I will grant you your life as a spoil." What reason did Jehovah give for Barrick's fears? It was not the assignment itself, or even his circumstances. In verse 5, Jehovah said, "You are seeking great things for yourself." Think about that.
Think about
It
that.
was Barrick's own view of what seemed great or most important. For a time, he was focused on seeking great things for himself. What do you think those great things could have been? Was it a desire for...
Whoa! Wait, I guess before I go on a rant, do we just not know? I forgot this element of it. Do we not know what the great thing even was?
fame or prestige? Was he sensing that his support for God's prophet was putting at risk his position and career? Or did the great things have to do with getting more money?
Okay, hang on. We got a cool boy. I can't tell if you're doing a bit. But yeah, they are successfully serving God on their own. And we're successfully over here separately doing a reaction stream. You know, it's not like I send this to Jehovah's Witnesses. It's not like, here's what would be annoying, is if I went to their doors and knocked on their door at 9:30 in the morning and made them watch a video. That would be really intrusive. But I don't do that. Jehovah's Witnesses do that.
Property or some material possessions? We don't know. But Barrick knew what they were, and Jehovah's counsel was clear. Stop seeking such things. It seems Barrick took Jehovah's counsel to heart. I imagine him reasoning something like this.
Oh, wow. Wow. So he's just here's my fan fiction. Here's the actual thing that I'm imagining. And now I will kind of imply that my imagination is Bible canon.
Jehovah knows my thoughts and feelings. Have I really been seeking great things for myself? It's true. Jehovah's always right.
Whoa.
My desires got the better of me, and I was so distressed. But Jehovah's kindly telling me, Barrick, be realistic. A divine judgment is coming. Everything that seems so stable will be uprooted.
This is such a long thing to imagine. This is like in the bit that The Office did, and I've seen other sitcoms do this, where they're like, the paper on the headline tomorrow will read like, Dunder Mifflin saved, some companies still know how businesses is done, and just keeps on going on the headline, even though no headline would be that long. Like, the fact that he's like, here's what I imagine him thinking, and then he gives this really specific long scenario.
Material things, property, money, or a prominent career, it's all temporary. Seeking those things is dangerous. Jehovah wants me and others to survive the coming calamity. And that's what I want. I need to get back to seeking great things for Jehovah.
Wow.
Well, that's just a possibility of how Barrick might have been thinking.
Yeah, I mean, considering that you just took one sentence and talked for 3 minutes about it, maybe not. I mean, I take one sentence and talk for 30 minutes about it. No judgment, but I'm just saying, Joel Dellinger is a real person. I don't even know if Barrick was a real guy who ever even lived.
But did he accept and follow the counsel? Yes. During the Babylonian siege of Jerusalem, about 17 years later, Barrick appears again.
Well, I mean, isn't family worship personal Bible study? Isn't personal Bible study just kind of supposed to be that? Like, you're just supposed to read the Bible and then kind of be like, imagine that being real. Just like, what if the Bible was real and you could imagine yourself being there? That's kind of just what they encourage people to do, is just read the Bible and just, I don't know, pretend like you were there, or imagine yourself in paradise. And yet, they're taking a Bible account where God says to a tertiary character, stop seeking great things for yourself. And Watchtower has spun this into a Bible principle that you should not, as a Jehovah's Witness, seek anything that might be perceived by your brothers and sisters as seeking great things for yourself. He doesn't define it. The Bible doesn't say what it is, but it's just clearly anything that takes you away from being a fully committed Jehovah's Witness.
Inspired record supporting Jeremiah. And though many others died during the catastrophic destruction of Jerusalem, Barrick and Jeremiah survived. Barrick's humble response to Jehovah's counsel saved his life. And such a response to divine counsel can do the same for us. I'm sure as you think more about Barrick, you'll see other ways we can benefit from his example.
Really? You're sure about that? Why are you sure? Are you sure because you're just going to tell us? Because you're going to be the one to keep thinking about Barrick? He's going to tell us?
But let's briefly discuss one particular challenge that some of us might be facing right now and how Barrick's experience can help. The challenge? Being balanced while providing materially for ourselves and our families. In today's world, many people are seeking great things for themselves as they pursue secular education and secular work. Many believe that the key to success...
Oh, love this. Many people are saying arguments. The president's favorite source. Many people. So this is I don't know, kind of bad rhetorical strategy, but it's good rhetorical strategy if you want to trick people. Yes, we have a comment from the...
No, I was just going to ask, is it peachy corner time?
It could be a peachy corner time. I think we need a little break from Joel Dellinger's face.
This will be a good review.
This is pretty exciting, guys. Sometimes we have special guests on the show, and sometimes they're in person, sometimes not. But this is a special in-person guest. She's kind of hard to get on the show, so it's a big deal whenever she's able to be on. But it's peaches that poppin', it's peaches that poppin', and Christina's a wife. She just went, This is Peach the dog. She's a Chihuahua. She's our very good friend. Maybe not our best friend.
No, she's we're each other's best friend.
Right, and she's canonically man's best friend, so we gotta think about that.
True.
What would you like to say to our favorite chatters?
I love you all.
Okay, very good.
No pictures, please.
Please, no pictures. Oh, well, it's so great to see Jehovah's marvelous animal.
Our spiritual paradise is a place that has many harmless animals.
Now, what do we mean by this?
I don't know. Right now, Christina's doing great. She's getting ready. We're having some friends over later. So she is getting some things ready for that. And these are her friends, like, from work and college and stuff. And because I'm married to her, I get to have friends. So it works out great. Love moved them to discuss with us what they learned from Bible, and their desire is forever. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. What if they're wrong? Have you ever considered the fact that some religions are wrong about stuff? Ireland. Now, is this our friend Ireland who called in to the call-in show? This is a genuinely good question for chat. What animal did you want to, like, have as a pet in paradise? And then what animal did you maybe just kind of want to, like, hang out with, but wouldn't necessarily be your pet? Because I was really interested in being able to kind of just pet and hang out with some of those, what are they? They're like snow mountain tigers. When I was a kid, like, we had to do some unit in school on these white tigers or like snow mountain tiger. What the hell? All right, now we're like in full, like, Joe Rogan. Jamie, look up what the white tigers are called. Hang on. White tigers. What are those called? Oh, it's called a white tiger. What could they possibly be called? Google says white tiger. I thought they just looked so cool. I thought they looked badass. I would say, honestly, boring answer, pandas do seem adorable and koalas seem very adorable. Koalas seem kind of like they're so sleepy. Maybe you'd like to see them. You can hang out with them. I'm a pretty sleepy guy. A Bengal. How do you Spider-Man? Nice poll. Yeah, snow leopards are also very cool. Let's look at snow leopards. You know, while we're here talking about paradise, snow leopards. Ah, and we see a baby. Look at that little baby. Okay, unfortunately, I've wasted enough time. Now that we've been reminded that there are beautiful mammals and living things that exist on this earth, let us now return to the grim reality of the humanoid, the Homo sapien.
People are seeking great things for themselves as they pursue secular education and secular work. Many believe that the key to success and the key to their and their family's happiness involves money and getting more material things, or a resting place in this system of things. Such thinking could influence us. If you're a family head, consider Chibisa. He's a brother in Malawi who, along with his wife and 7 children, were doing well spiritually. However, at one point...
Weird. Okay, I don't know why they keep doing this, too, but they keep on bringing up Malawi, even though they kind of have a famous scandal there. But I'm not going to get into that. I wasn't really paying attention to his many people are saying rant, and I do want to stop down on that because I find that their portrayal of the world is kind of bullshit. Hot take from this channel.
People are seeking great things for themselves.
Many people are seeking
as they pursue secular education and secular work.
Okay, those aren't great, though, really, are they? I mean, these are considered by a lot of people necessities to be a functioning adult in society. Like, you got to have a little bit of education. You got to know how to read and write and stuff. A lot of jobs, maybe most jobs these days that pay a living wage require some kind of college degree or trade school. And even though they technically like trade school, that is still secular education. Ooh, hang on real quick.
Many believe that the key to success and the key to their and their family's happiness involves money and getting more material things, or a resting place in this system of things. Such thinking could influence us. If you're a family head, consider Chibisa.
But, like, okay. Many believe that the key to success
and the key to their and their family's happiness involves money and getting more material things.
And, like, okay, that I would disagree with. Like, the key to happiness is definitely not money or material possessions. But if if you have, like, if you're constantly struggling for money, I can affirm it makes life more stressful. And if you don't have any material possessions, like you're lacking appliances or furniture that make life more comfortable, you're lacking basic amenities. Is that unreasonable to want? Like, is that seeking great things for yourself, or is that just seeking, I don't know, a sustainable life for yourself? So you better respect Jehovah God by respecting his savants, bro. When I meet a savant Jehovah's Witness, I'll tell him.
Or a resting place in this system of things.
Resting place.
Such thinking could influence us.
Yeah, some people foolishly believe that they will die someday and maybe try and leave on some kind of inheritance for their kids.
If you're a family head, consider Chibisa.
Chibisa.
He's a brother in Malawi, who, along with his wife and 7 children, were doing well spiritually. However, at one point, they faced financial problems. At times, there was not enough money to buy food for each day. How stressful.
Oh.
Like many others, Chibisa decided to go to South Africa.
How sad. I don't remember what video that was where the guy is just like, how sad. I think it was Tony Morris talking about how some kid in school believed in evolution once. Look at this. Down your face. When I tell my mom that I believe in evolution.
To find work. That was a personal decision. But was it wise? Looking back, Chibisa said this. This affected me spiritually because I did not know the language. I was unable to preach and I did not benefit from the meetings. Being so far from my family caused me to neglect my responsibility as a family head. As a result, my family grew weak spiritually, and we all missed each other very much.
Wow. Yeah. Great point. When you're far away from your family, you're going to miss them.
I realized that I had made a wrong decision going abroad. My conscience started to trouble me greatly.
Conscience. That's interesting. Like, it isn't just enough that he's like, you know what? It's not worth it. I would rather be home with my family because I miss them so much. It's no, his conscience was bothering him because really by doing that, he was sinning and making Satan happy and Jehovah sad. And I would just like to remind Chill Boy or Cool Boy that he is also making Satan happy and Jehovah sad right now because the governing body says you're not allowed to be watching videos like this, like the ones that I'm doing. Now, I don't believe that Satan or Jehovah exist at all, so I think that's silly. But you think your beliefs are not silly, so why are you breaking the rules? Aren't you worried that you're going to be destroyed in Armageddon? I guess not.
You parents must also make personal decisions about secular education for your children.
No, I don't love God. He doesn't
exist. You want them to get
exist.
a good education. But you have to think carefully about potential dangers. For example, in some countries, parents send their young children away to boarding schools. The March 15, 1997 issue of the Watchtower discussed the scriptural principles involved and related a number of experiences highlighting the dangers.
Wow.
A brother named Clement said that before going away to boarding school...
Wait. Did I kind of miss a scoop? I dropped my phone. Oh, wait, this is the 97 issue of the Watchtower.
March 15, 1997 issue of the...
Which, so confusing. This is something that I haven't really known how to talk about succinctly on the channel. I think I talked about it in the domestic violence video, that there's kind of an issue within Jehovah's Witnesses where culturally, even though I don't think this is necessarily written down anywhere, but the conventional wisdom is 10 years is about the shelf life of a Watchtower article. That, like, if you're looking up information on something and you go over 10 years, it might be old light. So you might just want to double check your information. And I remember at times when I was trying to show my parents some of the Watchtower quotes that were upsetting to me, I would show them a quote from like a 1989 Watchtower, and they'd be like, you weren't even born then. What do you care about that? Like, because it's still taught. It's still on the website as a teaching that we believe. And so, like, it's a really uncertain position when you're a Jehovah's Witness. Can you trust the Watchtower of 1997, or is that old light? You know, and I think the difference is if it affirms what Jehovah's Witnesses currently believe, they will gladly cite it. But when it contradicts current Jehovah's Witnesses beliefs, they're like, well, that's old. Why are you bringing out this old article? I've also, like, people do this with Donald Trump and defending him in his, like, sexual infidelity. They're like, that was years ago. Like, oh, I guess that makes him not a sex criminal pervert?
The Watchtower discussed the scriptural principles involved and related a number of experiences highlighting the dangers. A brother named Clement said that before going away to boarding school, he loved the truth and enjoyed participating in the ministry, in family worship, and at meetings. However, he said, once I went into boarding school at the age of 14, I left the truth completely. Throughout the 5 years I spent in boarding school, I never attended meetings. As a result of bad company, I got involved with drugs, smoking, and heavy drinking.
Okay, we're aware as functioning adults that not every single kid who's not a Jehovah's Witness turns into a burnout failure person, right? Like, you know how all around you, as you go about your day at like the grocery store and the fucking laundromat and shit, how you just see a bunch of people and like you go to a park and there's a family there and they seem happy. Yeah, those are people who did everything that Jehovah's Witnesses say is immoral, like go to college and occasionally drink at a party when they were a kid. But they're just happy and they're fine. But that's kind of the weird thing about Jehovah's Witnesses is like, even you have to exist in the world but be no part of the world. But you exist in the world and you're seeing that it doesn't conform to what Watchtower says. And that kind of makes you uncomfortable. And so you kind of have to tell yourself this story that everybody that you're seeing is constantly miserable and they have a Watchtower shaped hole in their heart that everybody who seems happy really isn't. And deep down, they're just as depressed as you are, but at least you have the truth and they don't. No, you don't. You don't support the truth, they say, because they say not to be doing this. They, like David explained, I can tell you what it's called because I know your beliefs better than you. It's called Put Up a Hard Fight for the Faith. It's on jw.org. It's like a 37-minute talk by David Splain. And he says that you should not go on message boards and argue with apostates. So there's your reference to a recent Watchtower video where the truth is your leader says that you're really too weak to be trusted with online videos and blogs and stuff. So you clearly don't believe that, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And if they're wrong about that, and you know they're wrong about that, then maybe they could be wrong with other things. So I would say go down that line of reasoning. What else might they be wrong about?
Let's consider one more situation.
Maybe the crazy things they say about invisible stuff that you can't possibly confirm.
You younger Christians approaching adulthood must make decisions involving
me.
education and employment. There may be many choices, but which ones will help you live up to
Whoa.
employment?
Guys, I gotta slow this down. Wait a minute. Something's happening to my brain.
There may be many choices.
Does this room look familiar to people?
But which one? And employment. There may be many.
I think I might have just stumbled upon a impromptu conspiracy corner.
Welcome, Internet. I'm so happy to share with you this conspiracy theory.
Is this the same little elders room where they filmed the judicial training, the judicial committee training videos that we've watched? Let's see what Madame Ruby sees. That means let's look at that video. See if it's the same room. Sorry, this is, if you want to know what it's like having ADHD, this is a haunting portrait that I'm painting for you right now. I noticed that a room looks similar to another room in a video that I put out, let's see, 7 months ago. And so now I'm obsessed and I feel like I have to figure this out. Let's get a good shot of the room. Oh, it's not the same. Oh no, it doesn't have the same trim. Damn it. Alright, this is one of the least successful segments of Conspiracy Corner of all time. I think I'm just immediately wrong. My only hope is that in one of the future training videos they used it. No, I guess all Kingdom Halls just kind of look alike. Oh shit, I just closed JW Broadcasting instead of YouTube. We'll be right back, folks. I think we can just go ahead and say that we're sick of Joel Tellinger, correct? Let's hear whatever this horrible Young People Ask video is. Oh, yeah. We didn't even get to talk about Aquarium Lady. Man, I tried to talk about Aquarium Lady on the stream last, like, the other stream I did, and that really didn't work out well either. That video is cursed. As far as I'm concerned, nobody asked me this, but as far as I'm concerned, this is, like, my best video. I think that this is, like, easily my favorite video I've made, and it's, like, not even in the top 10 most popular videos I made. So watch that one.
In a theocratic
if you wish this stream was good, watch that video.
Forgotten about when you're no longer in it? If so, you'll appreciate how a brother named Avinash, along with the Cotterell family, adjusted their thinking.
Oh, they adjusted
Note
their
how
thinking.
they found joy in seeking recognition from Jehovah rather than from others.
That's a pretty tough thing, to seek recognition from a person you literally cannot recognize, nor can they recognize you, because they're invisible and don't talk out loud. So you can't see them or hear their voice, other than reading a book and assuming that something he wrote a long time ago is just kind of cosmically telling you something now. But okay. Hell yeah, someone knows what's up. Dylan Johnson, if you crack the case...
I worked in an office
let me know.
in the financial district. I enjoyed everything about working there. Passing these tall skyscrapers, institutions with big names.
What is this guy? I've been watching this economist guy on YouTube who's really good. And his story kind of reminds me of that.
In terms of what I wanted from life, at that time it was great. Spiritually, it was not the best at all. You have to make yourself stand out. That really, affected my personality. I didn't even realize it at the time. I was pioneering, and I decided to apply for Bethel and was accepted. And my assignment was to do cleaning. And from my background, that kind of work, it was something that was looked down on. It's not something you would choose to do. I was used to an environment where if you did well, you could move to the next step and you'd be recognized for it. And this was the case for me, that I derived so much value from these external things, these privileges, and being set apart from others. I thrived on that commendation, both at work and in the congregation.
Wow, this is this is really something. This guy's backstory reminds me of Gary Stevenson, I think is this guy I've been watching. He was this guy who was like a young Citibank trader and, went to this like prestigious financial school and now talks about why capitalism is bad and maybe has some problems. But he's got a very similar, he's a UK guy or a British guy, and he's got a similar backstory. And, that guy turned out great. He's genuinely really successful and leading the class revolution. I don't know if he's leading it, but he makes good videos that I like.
So when you don't get it, then you feel lost a little bit. Other brothers were getting more recognition. And that just played in my head a little bit.
I don't really understand what point they're trying to make. So, the competition of school and stuff was too much for him, or, he felt bad because he had been raised as Jehovah's Witness, and they told him, if you ever go to school, you should feel really bad because you're making Jehovah upset. And so he did. But he went to Bethel, and he liked the constant praise and being assigned to do, menial tasks, the structure of it. I don't know about this video.
The spiritual environment in Bethel has taught me and is teaching me that our value is nothing to do with the privileges that we enjoy.
It's actually not true at all. For example, if you turn in a Bethel application and you haven't pioneered for 2 years, they value you less because you haven't had the right privileges to qualify for the other privilege. So they do actually rank people by what they do for the religion. And so this guy's wrong.
When we feed off the recognition from men, it's almost like
2 masters in this economy?
you know, the next compliment or the next praise. You can always feel like you're chasing happiness. But, you know, switching my thinking to thinking about Jehovah's recognition, it gives you more peace and it's more sustainable. And it really helped me to see that no matter what circumstances I'm in, I can be happy, I can be joyful. It's been good molding. Yeah.
A sincere, earnest laugh from somebody just exercising their free will and under no compulsion whatsoever. That was weird. I don't know. I don't know if that really worked. It's kind of like the pitch that the military academy tries to make to AJ in The Sopranos. It's like, this would be perfect for a boy your age. You need structure. You need commendation. And I do kind of think that's how Bethel works for a lot of young people, is it sort of whips them into shape, because it's like they're doing manual labor and have to wake up early every day and do certain things at a certain time or they get yelled at. Are we going to a new person now?
Sandy and I got married in 2003.
Ooh.
Sandy was pioneering back then, and I was happy to support
All right,
her.
Sandy, let's hear about
When
it.
we found out that we were expecting a baby, we were really excited. I still was hoping that after I had the baby that I would be able to continue pioneering. That was the plan anyway.
We just thought to ourselves, this is, we can grow them up, they can serve Jehovah, go to Bethel, all of the stuff that
They go to Bethel, they do fucking whatever.
One day,
get a
very
bottle
late
of
on in the
water.
pregnancy, I received a phone call from Sandy. She was rushed into hospital for an emergency cesarean, and everything changed.
What is happening?
We're so glad that he made it through.
What?
And thankfully he survived later on.
But I died, and now I'm a ghost telling you this story here on the
We
internet.
found out that he had severe brain damage.
We had to learn how to operate medical machinery. We had to learn what a syringe was. We had to learn so much stuff
what
that
a
we'd
syringe
never even had to
was.
think about before. So I used to feel like, why was our path to get to the New World harder than other brothers and sisters?
Wow, what a good question that has absolutely no answer within the religion.
But I felt isolated and lonely because I felt that no one understood what I was going through and what it felt like. No one around me was in my situation.
That's a problem.
We really enjoyed the assembly. Like, we'd sit near the front.
I don't know, that's like a comedic edit I would do in a YouTube video. They clearly cut out her continuing to say something about the assemblies.
We really enjoyed the assembly. Like, we'd sit near the front, didn't we? So that we could focus on what was going on. And all of a sudden, Eden's born. We're at the back.
Eden is born.
Right at the back. It's very, very hard
Right
to
now,
accept
innit?
that although I wanted to be somewhere at a certain time spiritually, that it just wasn't going to happen because I was in a completely different situation.
Weird. I wonder how that talk about that Sam Hurd gave about punctuality made her feel. I bet it made her feel really awesome and loved and supported.
Eden now has a little sister, Angel, who's also a blessing from Jehovah. Although our goals in life changed, and we might not be able to do as much as we used to do, we know that Jehovah's really appreciative on everything that we do. And as a family, we've set...
So they just didn't answer the question about why our path is harder. Like, I think that's a legitimately good theological question that you should ask as a critically minded person. If Jehovah or whatever God you worship has some plan for everybody, that's fucked up, because some people's plan involves them suffering way more than people who might deserve to be, punished or suffer for some horrible thing they did. It's the problem of suffering, but they just kind of ignore it. They address it, and by just addressing it without actually answering it, I guess they deflate the criticism.
A goal of being out in the ministry together at least once a month. It takes a lot to get Eden ready. There's a lot of preparation and a lot of medication, and there's a lot of hidden things that the congregation does.
Like, what is this? We were a family that, we used to sit near the front, and now all of a sudden we're sitting near the back. We're sitting near the back, and all of a sudden, bruv, we can't even get to the meeting on bloody time, can we? Sorry, that was terrible. I was really bad. I might make the accent worse on purpose.
We know that Jehovah's seen us struggling.
We learnt.
In the evenings.
We learnt that Jehovah's seen us over there, didn't we?
He can help you to cope, to be happy with small blessings.
I don't do it every day, but I try to write down what I'm grateful for, what Jehovah's given me.
No.
And this really helps me not only to be focused, but to have more appreciative prayers to Jehovah about what he's doing for me now.
You know what's weird is, like, when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I really did like prayer, and I felt like when I lost my belief in God, like I just didn't believe it anymore, then prayer lost its value, because it doesn't really feel as useful if you don't really feel that anyone's listening to it. But I think, like, I understand when people pray, and I think it's probably good for your mental health. But I started doing pretty recently, like around the beginning of the year, started journaling, like keeping a personal diary, which I never ever did as a Jehovah's Witness. I think it always freaks me out, even though I liked to write, probably because I was a little afraid of being introspective. I might have to address some of the doubts and concerns I have, right? But I do it, and like legitimately writing down things you're thankful for is so helpful. It really is nice just to feel like, you know what, this isn't for anybody. This is just like just something for me and myself to kind of process my thoughts. And I do think everyone should do that. What I don't like is the way when you're religious like this, you can't take any level of satisfaction in any of your accomplishments. Sometimes just making it through the day is really hard. It's like that when you have a disability or health problem. And so I can only imagine it's like that when you have two kids with disabilities and health problems. So, but you can't even say that. You can't even say that you accomplished getting through the day. It's like Jehovah allowed me to get through the day. Without this, without the religion, I would have just collapsed into a pile of mush. And so it just kind of takes, like, it's kind of not healthy, because sometimes you don't really, you can be really hard on yourself, and you don't realize, you know what, I actually did more than I thought. I did more than I gave myself credit for. And I am kind of proud of X, Y, and Z. And yeah, it's like Rita E's comment here. If you are sober, it's because of God's power, but if you drink, it's on you. Yeah, like, you don't get to take any credit for your successes, but you take all of the blame for your mistakes. So that's not a healthy dynamic. You should be able to take responsibility for your mistakes, obviously, but you can take responsibility for your successes too. I don't know.
We know that Jehovah values.
It's just, I can't watch any more of this, but it's just absolutely awful. And I really don't like the way that the broadcasts in particular weaponize genuine, like real life hardships that people go through for their cult propaganda, obviously. And I've sometimes when there are videos like this, I have that question of like, well, maybe it's good. Like, maybe the religion is good for some people because it's giving them this hope, right? And it's good to have hope. But like, there are so many millions of parents out there who have kids like they do. When the wife was saying nobody in the congregation knew what I was going through, well, like, when I had surgery and suddenly was going to have a permanent ostomy, I didn't know anybody that had that. But like, the nurses and the care team were like, here are some like little online support groups you can join. Here's some people you can connect with. And so, as it turns out, of course, obviously, even though I didn't know anybody personally who had gone through it, millions of people have gone through it. And they have done it oftentimes without God or anything. So like, these parents when they are saying how only through Jehovah could they do X, Y, and Z, it's actually really insulting to other parents who don't have this religious belief system and are doing just as well, struggling just as much. So I find it really, really upsetting. Johnsky asks, what triggers me is a sentence, I could not have done it without Jehovah. What does not making it even mean? I have done just fine without it. It's in the human nature to get past things. Yeah, it's just totally insulting to the rest of the human race outside of your religion. So many people are making it without Jehovah. You're just wrong if you say that. Oh, this is interesting. They're allowed to give the GB direct praise and not just Jehovah. So how about praising the parents for doing a good job? They will. Here's what they'll do. They'll commend Christian parents. They'll say, we commend you, Christian parents. You know, as long as you're raising them right. Our favorite segment, everyone.
Why was it difficult to choose a career?
Because you were a Jehovah's Witness and the leadership imposed obstacles that were unnecessary. Okay, next question. We know the answer to that. No, I just don't really want to watch this. I just had to endure one of these stupid videos for the channel. And no, I didn't have to. I just did.
Everything.
But it drove me insane. I like their questions and how they often have nothing to do with the answers given, though, so I want to check those out.
What helped you make a good decision?
Who is this guy talking to them?
I spoke with my mom about what I should do. She helped me to think about some of the dangers I would be exposed to at university, things that could endanger me in a spiritual sense.
After about 2 years, it became clear that I couldn't continue with such a busy routine. I needed to make a change.
You couldn't continue. Why? Because you had another full-time job that also demanded just as much homework and attention, and it was called the high control group that you were stuck in. And so you chose that over education.
I remembered some advice I got from a friend. He had studied to become an accountant.
God, that makes me
when
so
he was
sad.
young, but now he sells chilies. He jokingly said, so now I'm counting chilies. So I guess you could say that.
This is such a good comment from Jenny Bloom. If you are not at the hall, people start to forget about you. New moms are expected to be at meetings and conventions right away. Otherwise, you don't get help. This is super true. You are supposed to, as early as possible, bring your children to the meeting so they can get used to it. You know, so your child can get used to being a good JW kid who can pay attention during the meetings and not cause a stir. And so you can get help from the congregation. And also, I think to demonstrate as a witness that you're not like taking time off from the truth. You're getting right back into your spiritual routine. You're not going to let some baby keep you away from Jehovah. I'll shun this baby at a moment's notice if I have to.
It is what I studied. He explained that many people end up in jobs that have nothing to do with their university degree.
Oh, you know, a lot of people fail in life, so there's really no point in trying to succeed at anything. That sounds like a really fucking helpful person. There are a lot of things at college that, can be bad. And the fact that there's anything good there is kind of irrelevant.
If you're having trouble choosing the right type of work, consider talking to others about how they chose jobs that allow them to actively serve Jehovah.
Oh, fuck this so hard, especially right now. This is so out of touch. Like, this goes back to the assembly that they just had, or maybe witnesses are still experiencing this, but one of the demonstrations that I showed on the channel was this reenactment scripted thing where two Jehovah's Witness guys have to have this conversation about, like, are you sure that the governing body knows what they're talking about? We should send our kids to college. I mean, I didn't go to college in the end, didn't come. He didn't say that, but that was kind of the implication. And in this scripted scenario, the person's like, don't you think the governing body is a little out of touch? Like, they are clearly annoyed by that line of criticism. And then they say shit like this. Like, the primary struggle in life is not that there's just a gajillion jobs out there and you're just you're just going to the library and just trying to find a book. you'll like. No, it's not like that. You have to take what you can get, and your jobs are going to be way more limited. Your options are way more limited when you don't have any college education or limited college education because of impositions by your religion. So Jehovah's Witnesses intentionally and with great malice and forethought limit employment options for their members. And they're like, hey, are you having a hard time finding a job? Maybe talk to others about what they did. And you know what they did? They got fucking lucky. Like, you have to be really lucky to get a job that's going to somehow pay a living wage, which a lot of people work 2 full-time jobs and don't make a living wage in this country. Like, this is just total bullshit that could not possibly help anyone. Like, people who actually have this problem aren't going to be helped by this. This guy lives in the building he's standing in. He just has a dorm there, and all of his meals are paid for by little kids like that dude we saw earlier who, you know, has to like work in the kitchen and make Joel Dellinger's meals and shit.
Most important, pray.
No, pray.
Share your feelings with Jehovah. Tell him about your needs, goals, and preferences. Remember, no one is more interested in providing for you, materially and spiritually, than Jehovah. Among those who benefit from turning to Jehovah for direction are missionaries.
Wow.
This episode of...
No, we truly do not have time for our history emotion. I'm sorry to say. The most boring and usually most subtly lie-filled segment, because they really like to rewrite their history in this one. Okay, I am going to, unfortunately, have to end the stream for today, because we do have some house guests coming over, and I got to wrap things up. But thank you so much for joining. We'll be doing more streams. Stay tuned for more about this ridiculous broadcast coming up on the channel. And actually, I might try and record it right after this before people come over. But this has been great. The big announcement. Oh, well, I already made it earlier. It's just that I have a literary agent now. It's really only exciting for me and doesn't really impact anybody else's life at all right now. I did want to talk about Severance, though. Shit. Here's what I will say. If you... A spoiler-free take. No spoilers. But I thought the episode was excellent. I have actually... The big difference between the first season and the second season for me is that I discovered the first season after it was airing week to week, and so I was able to binge the whole thing. And now I'm watching it week to week. What I have found is a big Lost fan who makes videos about Lost on my second channel, System Failure. If you want to check that out. I discovered Lost in the streaming age too. Like, I discovered it after the show was airing week to week, and I adored it and loved it, and was so, baffled by a lot of the criticisms that cropped up when it was airing. But I now totally get it, because I had some frustrations as a viewer of Severance. Like, I feel like we're not getting a good answer on this. Like, this element of the show just doesn't even really make any sense to me, because I feel like we don't have enough information, and we just learned that this happened, and now we're introducing another thing. And I realized, like, oh, this is what people were saying, like, during season 2 and 3 of Lost, and it's the same thing. I'm just viewing it week to week. But the show has always rewarded that level of attention. Like, I loved this latest episode. I was surprised that people thought it was bad. Like, I guess maybe I'm not surprised, because it's like a slow burn that's more of a character study than like revealing stuff. But we do get a really important reveal. And the reveal in that episode, to me, like, immediately explained so much stuff that I had been kind of annoyed by as a viewer, and thinking, like, I feel like they don't even really, like, the rules of Lumen, and like when they can like leave their desks and shit, and like decisions that certain characters were making in the first season. I was like, I have a lot of questions about this world. I don't know how it all adds up. And the reveal this week immediately snapped a lot of things into place for me. So I don't know. Severance is great. Don't listen to people like me who get frustrated by the week to week thing. Okay. Now I will say goodbye. And what should we go out with? Well, I think there's only one option, and it's the extra H super.
And blood, clean, study, house, book, follows, speech, truth, small, truth, one, made of doubt, really, response, command, die,